Welcome to Orange County Power Players, where we spotlight the personal, professional, and financial success stories of OC's top leaders. Here's your host, Danny Flores.
Welcome back to OC Power Players, where I interview some of the most successful people in Orange County. Today, we have as our honored guest is Maneesh Goyal, zooming in from Irvine. Maneesh Goyal is a Chief Operating Officer for Mayo Clinic Platform at Mayo Clinic. Maneesh oversees the financial and operating performance and growth of the Mayo Clinic Platform. He has accountability for the ongoing refinement and execution of the platform's strategic and operating plans, acquisitions of executive and expert talent, the development of processes, systems, and infrastructure for the platform ecosystem of business, and the attraction of external partners and collaborators. Maneesh brings a cross-disciplinary background of finance, investing, operations, product development, and engineering. Maneesh earned a bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering from Worcester Polytechnic Institute, a master's in electrical engineering from University of Southern California, both Trojans, and an MBA from Anderson School of Management at UCLA. Welcome, Maneesh.
Thanks for having me on, and go Trojans, go Bruins, depending on your perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you got the best sides of both worlds, I guess. Bruins and Trojans.
I think so.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about how you got started and how you got here, where you're at now.
Yeah. I think the best I can say is, in spite of my best intentions, each of my paths and, movements have been preordained, I guess is the way to say it, or worked counter to my efforts. I guess the place I'll start is even just coming out to the West Coast. I was raised in Massachusetts, was ready to go get my PhD when got a call from a recruiter to come and interview for a position at TRW, which was one of the defense contractors. I think it's part of Northrop Grumman now in Redondo Beach. Well, you spend a weekend in Redondo Beach as a 20-something-year-old and you're sold.
You don't want to go back,
Yeah, and so did that for a couple of years, and family was calling me back in the East Coast. I interviewed for a position in New Jersey, and at the interview lunch, the director who was recruiting me happened to mention this company in Southern California called Broadcom. And at the time, Broadcom was a tiny little startup, and it piqued my interest because half of my team at TRW went over to Broadcom, and so I said, maybe I should pay attention to this. Right. Came out and interviewed, and for 7 years I happened to be working in a company that went from 40, 50 people when I joined to several thousand when I left. And as you know, Broadcom, I'd say, is one of the major success stories of Southern California.
Right.
After that, I think I was done with engineering and went off to business school, and happened to land in this interesting world of venture capital, where I got a chance to invest over a 9-year period in a ton of startups, invest in gaming companies and semiconductor companies. But where I fell in love with investing was in healthcare. So at the time, in 2006, 7, 8, in the United States, it's an important fact, there were only 2 investors that were investing in healthcare technology in 2008. And if that should be shocking to you at this point, because every technology fund has a healthcare strategy now. We were arguably a little too early, so we did not get that fund off the ground, but I learned a lot. And so I went back into an operating role where I led mergers and acquisitions for another power player in Orange County, Jeff Margolis, who founded Triceto Corporation. He was the CEO, and I became head of M&A for his company. And over a course of 7 years, we took that company for about $1 million in trailing revenue to about 100 million in trailing revenue.
Wow, that's a huge difference there.
Yeah. And then, and that was also in healthcare tech. I left that company, and I got a call from one of the board of trustees, or a recruiter, and a recruiter from Mayo Clinic, and piqued my interest. Mayo Clinic is a special place in the world, and took the meeting, and I didn't think I'd last long, to be honest. Mayo Clinic is a very large organization. It's an academic institution, and I joined, helped to write the business plan, and then was asked to be COO of this business unit. So it was 5 years ago. And so what did I learn? To answer your question, how did I get here? It's been, as those doors that have been opened, I just ran through them willingly, and worked my butt off.
Right. I guess there's no other way, right? You gotta earn your stripes, and that's by working hard and performing.
Yeah. So I have this rule of thumb. I will be one of the hardest working people in the group, but I will also be sure that I'm not one of the smartest people in the group. If you surround yourself with really smart people and then learn from them, you will always end up in a good spot.
Right. Now, what would you say, out of you've had multiple careers, which one has been the most fun for you?
It's like saying you've got multiple kids, which one's your favorite? So here's why. I think Broadcom was fun because I got a chance to see this massive growth in an exciting time. Late 1990s was a special time in technology. It was easy to be successful, I think. I really appreciated the power of equity. So owning a part of a business, and what it can do for your life, but also how to motivate people. So a lot of learning there, and just working with really smart engineers, sort of framed my brain in a certain way. I think in the venture days, I learned so much about so many different industries. It's, the hard part about anything we do is that we become specialists very quickly. And with venture, you get to be somewhat of a generalist and learn all the latest industries and have a massive network. And in healthcare, both as an M&A person and an operator, to now, which is really working for an academic, large, the number one health system in the world, you can turn around and make real impact on people's lives. So I think I had my favorite point in each of those, but I wouldn't say I had any particular favorite. I will just say that everything I've learned, engineering, investing, governance, running a business, acquiring businesses, investing in businesses, to all those things, and the healthcare experience, decades of healthcare experience, have made me into somebody that can actually do what I do today. So those are all prerequisites to what I do today. So, yeah.
And I would guess that you had no idea in the beginning that you'd go from where you started to where you're at now, and have all those experiences along the way.
Well, no, I mean, you couldn't write the script. You couldn't write the script even if you tried. And that was my point earlier, is that, I've got two young kids who are both teenagers, and I keep telling them that you might have a vision that you have for your life. It will not work out that way 9 out of 10 times. But as long as you make the best of every single opportunity,
right,
you'll be just fine. Because, again, I was trying to get my PhD, did not pursue that. I was trying to move back east and work for a large company. Instead, went into a startup. Uh, and I've been a small company person for most of my career, and all of a sudden I've joined a large healthcare organization that's an academic institution where I have to wear a suit and tie every day. It's very these are just different opportunities. You can't predict it.
So how has the adjustment been from going from that type of entrepreneurial type of environment to corporate type of environment, where there's maybe more rules and more structure to follow?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think the Mayo Clinic today and over the last few years has been very much, I'd say, agile and entrepreneurial. So even though we are a healthcare organization, even though we're, we have to dress in a certain professional manner because we want to represent the best when we're talking, in front of patients, whether we're walking the halls or supporting our clinicians. There's a mindset around the organization that as long as you hold the core values as solid, and the core values start with the notion that the needs of the patient come first,
Right.
and then there's a set of operating values that you also maintain, that it gives you a sense of flexibility and agility. So the adapting to the Mayo culture did take probably 6 to 12 months because decisions had to go through certain committees, and you had to ensure you brought everybody along. Whereas startups, you basically make a decision and you move forward, right? There's different mindset. So it did take a bit of adjustment, but not as much as you would have thought, because the organization tends to make decisions on the core principle that whatever you do for the patient has to be positive.
Right. Now, if somebody who's listening and wants to get started in a business career,
Yeah.
what would you suggest? Maybe even from college, which majors have given you the most or the best tools to navigate, and how would they get started?
I think so. There's two approaches. One, that you go deep in a particular area, like you become a CFO, or you work your way to becoming a CFO. So you take all the the CFA exams and all the accounting certifications, and you work your way through the different spots to get to a CFO. That's one way to do it, or marketing or sales or whatever. And you have to determine if that's the right path for you, because you're so structured in your thinking, and that you really enjoy that. You enjoy, balancing their budget and that sort of thing, or you really like convincing people to buy something, or just you like the art of selling. So you go deep. I think you have to pick your vertical in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But in parallel, I would say that cutting across multiple industries in your career early is important, so you can actually understand how different industries operate. I was fortunate enough to get that kind of experience through the venture world, which allowed me to see all these different industries and start to see those patterns that exist in R&D cycles and sales cycles, and in each of these different industries. And I think that's so necessary if you're going to be an expert in one of those vertical areas, because it gives you an ability to draw upon these different industries. So those are the things I would have told myself if I were to meet my younger self today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you got lucky. You had a great path. Now, we know it wasn't always easy. What can you share with us, like one of your biggest challenges that you had to overcome in your journey?
I would say, recognizing your own limitations. When you have early success, you start to believe that you can do everything. And recognizing your own limitations and working to improve those. When you think about a complete executive, communication, strategic thinking, ability to sell, ability to lead people, to plan, there's a whole set of things you need to be reasonably good at, not world class, but you need to be reasonably good at. And then you have to have things that you are world class at to be an executive. One of my former colleagues used to say you have to have a superpower. So you have to determine what your superpower is. So I think I was pretty certain what my superpower is. I think very structured. I think system-wise, I can assimilate large pieces of information and distill them down into organized concepts. Where I have always had challenges, which I didn't see, were dealing with politics and dynamics in complex organizations. And I think that held me, it caused me more strife than I needed to. So understanding that earlier in my career and helping to build those skills earlier would have been, would have helped me, but we all mature in our own age.
Right. No, that's interesting. In dealing with the politics of an organization.
Yeah.
The bigger they are, the more politics there is, and moving through that, especially if you're trying to promote, hire, learn more, get a bigger position, climb to the top as a C-suite executive. You got to figure it out, right? And I don't remember any classes in college that teach you that.
It's experience. It's all experience. Yeah.
So no, that's great. That's a great experience and great insight. So as we're in the second quarter of 2025, what is any exciting plans for you in the next 6 to 9 months?
So a lot of what we've been doing. So what's my day job, right? We didn't really talk about that. So Mayo Clinic delivers high quality care. The premise behind the unit that I lead, Mayo Clinic Platform, is we as a healthcare industry need to leverage all of the platform thinking in other industries. And that means, like the ride sharing industry or the renting an apartment or hotel industry, travel and leisure. Every other industry has been changed and evolved through platform models. Healthcare has not really taken hold of it. So we at Mayo are trying to re-architect a lot of the core things that Mayo does, like take care of patients, but do it under a platform model. An example of that is for certain kinds of things, you don't necessarily need to stay in a hospital. You can deliver the services that you would get in a hospital, but deliver it in the home. So it's not like ordering an Uber. You really have to, or ordering DoorDash. You really have to be thoughtful about how you create services that are expected, needed, and delivered at the right time based on a clinical process. When you do that, you can start to think about re-architecting what a hospital is. You don't, in order to take care of more patients, you don't need to put more buildings up. You can use the resources in a smart way. The second part of this is unlocking knowledge from data. And we've been on this journey for 5 years. Today, Mayo has 56 million patients in the platform, consisting of all kinds of data that is collected on patients. And we've de-identified it and made it so that we can extract knowledge from there. Things like looking at your ECG, a tool looking at your ECG, and before you have any symptoms, diagnosing some really catastrophic cardiovascular conditions. Or looking at your overall clinical record and doing an early diagnosis of Alzheimer's. So there's a lot you can do by organizing and extracting knowledge from that data. So those are two examples of platform thinking. And so to answer your question, the journey we've been on is making more and more of these solutions available to a growing set of health systems. So, whether you're in Rochester, Minnesota, which happens to have the world's best healthcare organization, or you are in a part of sub-Saharan Africa, which has limited tertiary and quaternary healthcare, but has decent primary care, or you're in a remote part of the world that has no health system, but they have community health workers. Can we actually improve the decision making? Can we improve the quality of care in each of those different kinds of settings? And can we all learn from that benefit? We've been busy at building all of that, and now we're just starting to see the fruits of labor by impacting tens of millions of lives across the globe. So when I'm done and hang my hat up at some point in my career, I can point to leaving the world a little better from a healthcare perspective.
And that's a great accomplishment, to be able to reach more of the masses, to be able to help improve their living by giving them better health care. And that's amazing work. Congratulations on that. Now, as we wrap up, and somebody who's listening and would love to get a hold of you, chat more about what you do, or maybe contribute, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think the best way is probably LinkedIn. I'm pretty reasonably active on LinkedIn, so easy to look up. Maneesh Goyal at Mayo, or welcome to send me an email, goyal.maneesh@mayo.edu. So it's fairly straightforward. And what's wonderful about my upbringing is that I respond to every single email. I don't typically go to bed until my emails are near zero, or at least on the same one page. So please reach out.
That can mean some late nights, I think, potentially.
Yeah, I don't think I have a regular sleep pattern.
Yeah, very good. Well, Maneesh, thank you so much for joining us today. And to our listeners, please go to ocpowerplayers.com and follow us on your favorite channel. Thanks so much, Maneesh.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Orange County Power Players. Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at ocpowerplayers.com/guest.